Um, I am on the air live coming to you from California, Los Angeles. Well, anyway, it is the holidays, and I'd like to extend a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Hope your travels are safe and your holiday will be a safe holiday. I wanted to put in my opinion about the Umar Johnson delicensing scandal, if that's what you want to call it. Now, I've seen some videos that have popped up all over social media on in terms of YouTube and some YouTubers of the conscious community. And I would consider myself a conscious person. But of course, even with any specific topic or a specific concept, there is some types of disagreements or agree to disagree. And so there has been some social divides within the conscious community as well. And I'm not as popular, some of the people who may be watching YouTube on a regular basis. I don't really watch on a regular, but regular enough to know the up and up on what's going on in some of the politics of the conscious community, and that being said, the Black conscious community as well. And so there was an incident where Dr. Umar Johnson supposedly posted paperwork, court papers, showing that disappointed by the decision that was made because he feels like there were people who were pretty much setting him up to take a fall. And there was some blame towards the Black people in the community that showed a lot of disrespect or hate towards him. I feel, in my opinion, that I'll say the good things about him, is that he's a good speaker. He is educated. I don't know a whole lot about this man, but I'm not a huge fan of him. I feel like more of what his demise is, this is my opinion, is that he attacked particular groups, Black women, the LGBTQ community, and then there might have been some other people that he had some enemies with, talk show host. Some moments that he would be on video or he'd be on a talk show in suit and tie, he would be really well dressed. And then other times he'd be dressed, but he's dressed more like in street attire, more neighborhoodsy, and he was more aggressive. And over time, his demeanor changed. I had witnessed this in several, dialogue videos, commentary that he had put out or was put out about him. Rather, I feel like he built up a big fan base, a following of males who are quote unquote would probably consider themselves to be alpha males. And I feel like that might have been also a big part of it, is when you put ego and you throw ego in there and you start attacking other groups. I think he should have been more focused on the big picture. If you're going to build a school, if you're going to do something positive for Black people whose voices haven't been heard, stick to the plan. Don't start deflecting and attacking groups. And then when something doesn't work out, or if you have a big task that you're trying to take on and you don't want to include other people because you have disagreements, you can look for that vision to probably be flawed, more than likely. And I feel like in the Black community, a lot of times you'll have men who, some, not all, who will pretty much fight amongst one another. And if they don't all agree on a particular subject or a particular concept as a whole, then it creates a big rift. And I feel like there's more at work going on, and we just kind of got to sit back as a community of people and kind of reevaluate the situation and not really point fingers just yet because we don't know the whole story that's involved. Maybe he will build a school, maybe not. We don't know if there's other things at play here because like even in throughout history, anybody that speaks out on issues of politics that are uplifting a particular group's voice that hasn't been heard, usually we've heard in the past, we've read in the past, people have been assassinated. It's a sad situation all in and of itself because and if you're trying to lift Black people up, wavelength on some issues because everybody is not the same. Everybody doesn't live the same. Everybody doesn't have the same complete ideologies. That's what makes us people as unique because we're human and we make mistakes. And if you have one goal in mind that's positive to uplift the community, then you need to stick with that and you need to focus on that and don't deflect from it. You have to be really like straightforward with that particular topic, that issue, that goal, because if you let other things deter you from that goal, then it won't come to pass. So I feel like a lot of ego is involved. There's also this really bad aura where a trend was going on where guys were putting out these videos that were negative towards Black females. And so now that, you know, we're not in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or even the 80s and 90s, some of us reminisce about the times when things were different, but this is a different generation and we're in a different time and we're dealing with different issues, some similar, but a lot different now. A lot of people are more in for themselves. You have a lot of people who will talk and preach and say a lot of nice feel-good speeches, but they really are in it for the money. They're not in it for the upliftment of Black community. And a lot of things have gone mainstream, high tech. So there's a lot of like people who are shysters, who are not honest, who are just trying to, you know, put up a GoFundMe page and just trying to collect a lot of money from people and then they just disappear. You know, we don't know what's going on. We can't point fingers. So you have to just wait. Sometimes in order to get something big, you have to start small. It doesn't start off where you have something big and bam, and there it is. And if you turn hot button topics, then that might be the demise or part of the demise of a plan, a bigger plan that you're trying to create. And the other thing is that this is coupled with the gender war, whole issue of gender wars. I noticed that on the social media websites, there's been back and forth squabbling in the conscious community with Black males, Black females on different topics, a whole myriad of topics. But this is a new generation, this is a new time era. And so a lot of the old school thinking is not the way everybody believes and thinks. And so you have to open the door to new possibilities. You may not agree with everything that people are doing, the way they live their life, or what they see is different, but that what they see is different might be, you never know, it might be a door that could fling open for other possibilities, to unite people, to bring people together on a more positive level, to do that one big goal, to uplift the Black community and to give more jobs and to give more education and to open the door for more opportunities for young Black males. The other thing is that if you say a school for Black males, I guess maybe the reason why that came about because there was a school for girls with Oprah. So much into that. I did hear something now, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, that there was some abuse going on in the schools towards some of those girls the school for girls that Oprah had created. Oprah had a lot of money. She's mainstream, and she, pretty much, I guess some people are not that crazy about, you know, leaders that get that high up and they sort of distance themselves from their own culture. Um, it depends on what the person's experiences have been, but if you look at the videos that were put out about Black women, Black females in general, you could kind of understand the descent of Oprah and the descent of Black women when they want to distance themselves from the Black community group of people if they feel like they're not appreciated or they're underappreciated. And so if you're going to have a group of Black males who want to succeed in anything, you have to be inclusive of all your counterparts. That includes Black females. And so there's also this bashing back and forth where who's dating who's sleeping with who's with a white man, who's with a white woman, and then people comparing themselves to other cultures. And it's sad because those other cultures don't relate to our culture because of the fact that they're from another culture. So I just feel like there's a lot that has done a lot of disservice in the Black community. There's a lot of people who are popular in YouTube, and they're not really in it to uplift the community. They're in it to make a quick buck, or they're in it to build themselves up and to line their pockets. And I've said this in previous videos. I feel like now the way this world is headed is more about the green. That's the color that people are more interested in. It's not so much, every now and then people will throw race or they'll throw gender in the mix. But the thing is that people are really selfish. There's some folks that are selfish, and they have clever ways of trying to gain profits. If it's book deals, if it's popularity because they build a following, they say something or they say something on a talking point that builds a following. Just like there's white supremacy, there's Black supremacy, where you have some Black people who will say, oh, we hate white people, and white people did this and white people did that. And then they build a following. They say the things that they think certain Black people who have lived in those time eras, or who have experienced or had stories or had personal bad experiences, they feed off the anger, the Black anger in the community, which is rightfully justified. There is a lot of things that are even still today going on that have to deal with race and oppression of Black people and people of color. But to prey on people whose anger so that you can make money off of them doesn't make it right. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like, in my opinion, I feel like, with the Black males that have been shot and gunned down, there's a lot of anger with females, Black females, how they've been treated. Now they feel like, there's been a lot of video bashing on YouTube and on social media and on other websites, and character, denouncing or defaming the character of Black women as a whole, as a collective, blaming them for the demise of the Black community, is a lot of anger. Some of the hurt and injustice that Black people as a group of people have experienced, some of the things that are even deep, ingrained in us as growing up, maybe from neighborhoods where people didn't have good education, or they had mediocre education, or they had to fight to get into colleges, or they had to go through a lot of rigmarole. There's a lot of anger out there. And so a lot of people who are trying to just make this money and come up on social media, they build a following. They have, a site, maybe books. Maybe they were popular back in the day. They're not making money now. They're not a rapper anymore, or they're not, acting anymore. So now they've got this social conscious social media site where everybody kind of logs in. They say, oh, you remember so-and-so, he was this big back in the day. Now he's talking about Black problems, but he's also wanting you to donate and give him money. So he's making money off of your anger and your frustration, which he can relate to because he himself is Black, but he's not really into uplifting your community. He's into making more anger and making more, discord and social divide. And eventually, what happens is you have people that divide within that community. And so that's what's happened with the conscious community. People have divided. There's been a whole bunch of bashing and video bashing of different individuals because of the fact that they are on the Umar Johnson bandwagon. You know, a lot of black males who maybe they have that old school thinking, or they were trained that way, or they just believe that women should take a back seat, not be saying anything and let the men lead. And I don't find anything wrong with men leading a fight. Um, but there are women leaders as well. You have to be open to that. You have to be open to the Harriet Tubmans of today, you know, the women, the black women who are leaders of today. If you're not open to that, then you might not last. There are also leaders that are from other groups. They probably are also black, but just because they don't live the same exact replica way as you, and they don't live in this bubble, then you know you might not be able to gain access to certain avenues. Maybe they know people, they know higher up people that could get you money so you can open up a school. But if you shut the door on your opportunities, you'll never get anywhere. And if we're pointing fingers at each other and fighting with each other, that's not going to help either. But I would say too, just like back in the days of COINTELPRO, when like you had groups that were militant, like in the 70s and, you know, before, and in the 60s, where you had Black Panthers and different groups where they were always surveillance. Everything they did, you know, they were silenced. They were called terrorist groups, and they were gunned down, they were assassinated. And it's the same thing, like pretty much like today. Anything that some group is trying to do, a movement of positivity, is always going to be met with, you know, some controversy. So I feel like Dr. Umar should also consider the fact that he might also have FBI and CIA surveillancing him, because anytime you start talking about black people problems, then that's what you're going to get, is black people problems from the powers that be. And so we've seen this time and time again. So that in my opinion is what I believe is going on. What's happening. So I feel like we have to just sit back and really wait and evaluate the situation out once it plays out, to see whether it takes flight, or if it just kind of just stays stagnant, or if it's blamed on one particular group of people, which might be us, and as a whole, because it didn't get off the ground, or maybe it was never meant to get off the ground anyway, because that wasn't the true intention of the person who claimed that they were going to take on such a project. And I feel like no one person can do something without the help of others and being inclusive of other ideas. And so a lot of times that's what happens. You know, I feel like within our community, we're very more, in terms of Black people, we're a lot emotional when it comes to political issues, dealing with Black problems, Black issues, Black politics. And it's rightfully so, because of what we've experienced as a people, even to this day. I feel like a lot of what's going on, the silencing, you know, regulating this net neutrality, regulating videos, whether people get paid for what their content is, their viewing content, and what have you. You can say certain things and you can't say certain things. All this hate towards one another, you know, I feel like a lot of this is playing out, and it isn't good for the cause of what some Black people were wishing to happen in the near future. I feel like there really won't be any moving forward, rather than more backward or just staying in one place. What I do feel is good is that people are talking. I feel like people should talk more and they should converse, but that's the issue. People should be more open to conversing and new ideas and new avenues on how to get their foot in the door, without this old school thinking, well, we can't have this person, we can't have this person, because this person is not what we believe in, and or they're not a Christian, they don't go to church, or they're in the they're open to LGBT rights and feminism, and so there's so much discord within our own ranks. So I feel like that's the reason why we won't really get ahead, because this is a new generation and you're trying to get new people turned on to these old ideologies, which this is not going to work. And so if you're never really were in it to help people to begin with, and your whole criterion was just to gain money from people who are angry because there's so many issues that have happened in the past up to now, dealing with police violence and racial epithets and racial tension and oppression and what have you in different areas of politics towards blacks and people of color and people who are underprivileged. If you never really had a desire or passion to really fight for the cause of people to have a better life, then that's more the demise. That would be more the demise. With that being said, I don't know what else to say on these issues except that I did listen to a video. Some woman, I think she calls herself Lovely T, or Lovely, if I'm saying it correctly, correct me if I'm wrong or not. But she had brought out some really important points, some valid points, some different things about Dr. Umar and some of his past and his present up to now, which could be a big indicator as to why some of the things are happening to him. We're not really sure. It's a big question mark. Um, the whole thing with the stripper, that wasn't the only thing, because he's human. He's a person, first off, and I would not hold one individual on a pedestal. And I think we need to get out of that. And that's why I said we need to be leaders within ourselves and not depend on one leader so much as we do our own intuition about how we want to move forward, about trying to create a positiveness in a community. But if you're going to say, well, we want positiveness in this area, but we want to hate these people in this other area, I don't think things will really, really take flight. Um, you'll only have a certain majority of people who agree with maybe your epithet of dissent, and everybody is not on board, and it's not going to create any powerful, let's say, feedback, except it'll just create more discord and more dissension within Black people in the community, because you have Black people who are LGBTQ, you have Black women who are single, who are independent, and who may be feminists, and you have Black people who maybe they don't want to be a Christian, they just want to be atheists or they just want to be conscious, or the spiritual part of it. They're not involved in going to church every Sunday. So there's different things that some people are okay with, and some people aren't. And so you just have to realize that this is a different generation, this is a different time, and that everybody is not, on board with the same ideas. There are some Black people who don't mind marrying people of other races, other cultures, and you know, going to live in neighborhoods or going to live in places with people of other backgrounds. So some people are not for that. Some people call it swirling. And I feel like a lot of times when people are stuck on those issues and they don't look at the big picture, that's what holds a lot of us back, because we can't see anything that is different from what we believe in. And we feel that it's a threat. And honestly, I feel like there's a lot of male ego-ness involved in this when it comes to Dr. Umar. He's a good speaker, and a lot of things that I do agree what he says, but there's a lot of things that I don't really totally wholly agree with. I feel like there were a lot of videos that were put out towards Black women that were very rude, that were very disrespectful. And what counterpart could you blast and just totally defeat yourself? It's like you're killing your own soldiers. And you're saying you want to be a strong army, but the people who are fighting with you or alongside of you and looking to support you, you're murdering them, with your words. And so to say negative things towards people of your own background simply because they are not of this, they don't have the same mindset, or they're a woman or a female, or they're about independence, female independence, and um, it's counterproductive in my eyes, the way I see it. So with that being said, I hope everyone has a great holiday, enjoys themselves, and be safe out there. I just think that people need to reevaluate some of the things that they say and do. A lot of people will put out all these feel good speeches, and they'll talk up against a certain talk show host. Maybe this is the only talk show host that can open the door for you. You don't have to agree with everything they say and do, but you have to have a level of etiquette to try to get your foot in the door. Um, if you're just like a bulldog straight through the whole program and you don't know how to, tame that bulldog and tell them, look, you come out when the need or the time is needed. But right now I'm going to harness you because we're trying to make this positive thing happen. And we don't need this bulldog to come out right now. The cages, um, because now you're looking more like you're, a threat, rather than a, an asset or a helpmeet or somebody that could go, big. And I think too, a lot of people are in it for the money nowadays. I think I've said this even before. I feel like money is the color green is more important to people, more so than anything now. It always was, but even more so now because things are changed. Things are about high tech. We've got cell phones. Most people can't do anything without their cell phones now. A lot of people are saying they want to fight against the system. These old things are obsolete. And so, like, even with the cell phones, you have to change your cell phone ever so often. It used to be you'd have a cell phone for a while, and now you have to change it like every year, 2 years when something comes out because there's new features, new things go obsolete. And so, I feel like that's the way the world is, that's the way people are. We're not always going to stay in a bubble. But you have certain individuals who they want to stay in that bubble and they want to keep things the way they were back in the 50s and 60s and the 70s, 80s. It's not even the 90s even. I know there's some things that people reminisce on, they wish could still be the same, but everything is not going to always be the same. It's ever changing, just like the world we live in. It evolves. And so I feel like these are old fights and they just evolved. Now people are more clever about using social media to, push their plight. And I really believe that people should think more about who they're following. We need to be more leaders within ourselves and focus on the big picture, I think is more the issue. Focus on the big picture and what it is you want to do. If it's something positive and you really have a desire to make moves in this world, to do something positive for people who are underprivileged, then do so. And it doesn't always mean that you have to have notoriety. Sometimes people who do the biggest help in the community, you don't even know who they are, you don't see them, and they may make contributions, but they don't want their name to be recognized because it's not about who they are as an individual, it's about what they're doing and about who they're impacting and what impact they make in their community that is positive. You have people who maybe they don't have a lot of money, but they give of themselves. They might make sandwiches and they might go out and go downtown and feed poor Black people and poor people of color, people who are not even Black. They're feeding them, doing things and they're not recognized. But It's more about the actions, the things they're doing that is more important. They're not spending their time. You're a woman. We don't like you because you're a feminist. We don't like you because you're independent and you won't date men. Stuff like that. Um, doing something about it. And, there's some people that work in schools and they're helping kids who maybe don't have opportunities and because of disabilities. There might be people who you don't even know who are helping people and they don't get recognition for what they do. And they may have been doing this for years and they don't get on social media and start blasting people. "Well, I don't like gays. I don't like feminists. I don't like, black men, or whatever. I don't like that black men are marrying white women," which I'm not that crazy about that part in terms of if I don't mind if people get married with other people from other cultures and backgrounds if it's really for the right reasons. But if it's because she looks good with me or I want my kids to look a different culture, and because I don't like black people and we are self-hating, or they marry a white woman because they are mad at black women and they want to prove something. I've said this in other videos. Those would be my reasons for not really being that excited about that kind of stuff. And the same goes for black women who they figure, oh, I'm gonna marry a white guy because black men are this and that. I feel like those relationships are not gonna last. They're not gonna last. There's no longevity in it if they didn't marry for the right reasons or the right intent. Um, those relationships are short lived. But with that being said, wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and forward. And hopefully we'll just have to basically sit back and see how it plays out, in the scheme of things, because ultimately there's really nothing that we can really pinpoint right now. It's in the early stages, I would say. I just think that it's not a surprise to me because there's a lot of stuff that's happened to lead up to this. I feel like whenever you take on a project and you say you're going to build this big school or this big whatever, you need more people's input, you need more help, you need all the resources you can get. Even if you have money, money is not the only factor of it here. You're going to need people who are able to, find you a building. Or if you're going to build a building, you got to get permits. Where is it going to be located? How many kids are going to be impacted? Is it going to be out of the country or is it going to be in the country of the US? In a neighborhood where people are underprivileged, um, you have to create a budget and you have to create a plan. You have to, there's a lot involved in all of that. There has to be a lot involved. There has to be structuring of, how big is the school going to be? How many students are you going to have? Can it be licensed? Um, I'm sure the school has to have like a license. It has to be approved. It has to be accredited. Um, and it has to be approved. Um, I'm sure that somewhere in there, you can't just make a school and it not be approved. It has to be accredited. It has to be something where if the kids graduate, that they can carry it on to another institution. Because if it isn't, then it's like, what did you do all of that for? So what is the school's intent? Is it science, math? Is it psychology? What's the directioning of the school? Is it a general ed? Is it general ed inclusive of African history? Lots of things are involved in what teachers are going to work there. What are the teachers? Um, how much are they going to be getting paid? then when you're talking about kids and you say black boys, okay, be careful because if you got a school where it's only boys, I don't know that they still have schools like that. I guess they have schools where it's only girls, only boys. A lot of schools now are co-ed. They did have schools where it was only boys, like, like like those like military schools or boarding schools. I think a lot of those things now have changed. This is a different time. So that could be a problem in and of itself right there, that you're not inclusive of girls. So somebody could say something against that and the school may not even make it off the ground, simply because of the fact that you won't include girls. So there's a lot to be had here. Um, and I should know because I'm involved in education, so I know. So that what he's talking about, he's gonna need a lot of, mind power and also female power because you're dealing with children. And I know that might sound stereotypical, but trust me, the way the education world is, when you're dealing with children, people have to be screened. They have to look at their background, do background checks before they can work in these schools around children, around other people's children. There's a lot involved. And now that we have, like what you're saying, the gender wars, this man has a history of saying some things that are very controversial and don't rub everybody the right way. And that there were videos that were put out about women, and here you got this guy talking about making a school just for boys. So what is the true intent? So these are a lot of questions, a lot of things to ponder. So anyway, like I said, not to make this video so long, but we'll cut the video short, and I will say, or it might not be short, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it for watching. We really have no other words except for what I said. Watch me. Bye.